Operation Domination is underway. The ultimate game plan to dominate your NFL experience. With your hosts, Dan Maiden.
But what's more impressive to me about the
Case Thornton.
Yeah, I mean, I got it.
Chris Dowhouse.
Get him, Chase. Get him, Chase.
And Adam.
No, not necessarily, but it's again the same.
Don't hope to win. Be great and dominate.
I know. We're throwing you all off because it's a Sunday morning. We're just giving you a little taste of what it's going to be like in the regular season here with the Operation Domination show on your YouTube channel. If you go to @FF Advice Network, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notification, and download us on your favorite podcast app because we have content like today's show, which we're talking about the AFC East profile series all the way through now till I think end of July is when we'll be done. All the divisions, get you geared up as we're transitioning out of Dynasty Talk into redraft and best ball talk. And we have a guest today who's going to help us do that. But before that, gentlemen, how are we doing on a Sunday morning? We're not too hungover from Saturday night, are we?
I have my oldest son graduated high school last weekend. We had his graduation party here at the house yesterday. So the bar actually got a full bar workout. It's transformed back into studio mode now, but I've still got a house load of house guests upstairs right now. So I'm glad to be here in the element and putting that behind me for a while. We're going water this morning, boys.
Full disclosure, I may or may not have made it to the last fight last night on the UFC card because I was like, I was feeling a little bit too good last night. But we're here this morning. We're having a good time. Let's get our guest introduced. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. He's the host of Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros, and on the Sports Grid Radio Network, and on Sirius XM, the one, the only, Mr. Joe Pisapia!
Let's go. That is an intro, folks. That's how you do it. You put me to shame, Dan. I should intro everybody on Fantasy Pros that way. It's my fault, everybody. It's a Sunday morning. I'm sorry. I apologize. So if you're hungover, that's okay. It's all good. I see one guy's already doing the show here from a bar, so I'm already at home. This is great. And thank you for accommodating my crazy schedule. So I've been up since 6:30 this morning. I already did 2 hours of TV. I'm ready to go. Let's talk football, baby. Let's go.
Love it. Joe, thanks for taking the time, man. Always happy to accommodate our schedule for you anytime. We got a big thing going on here. AFC East profiles, lots to talk about. Let's jump right into the quarterbacks. We'll have some showdowns later, but Josh Allen, not much of a showdown type of guy. We're not going to have a debate on Josh Allen because no matter where you have him ranked, you have him at least in your top three. Consensus number one. Chris, I saw on here you do have him at 3. You want to tell us why you hate Josh Allen so much that you had to nitpick him down to number 3?
Yeah, Dan, I really do hate Josh Allen. No, I do have him at number 3. I just think there's going to be some rebounds from some other guys who I like a little bit more. And I have some concerns about this Buffalo offense. How, pass-oriented are they going to be? We saw some games towards the end of the season where Josh Allen had 90 yards passing in one game. Now, he lives off his legs, so is he going to have rushing touchdowns? Hopefully, and lots of them. But 15 touchdowns is a lot to keep asking for a guy to keep running for, especially making lots and lots of money. So I'm interested to see if Josh Allen's going to continue to kind of, be that top guy, or is he going to be somebody kind of starts following down a little bit? So I'm not going to necessarily reach for Josh Allen, so that's why I have him by 3.
All right. I mean, fair enough. It is a hard number to get to, but it helps when you have James Cook and maybe Ray Davis is a goal line back. We'll have to see, but there's some question marks if they actually have some guys going to be on the goal line there. Joe, is there any reason that we should be worried about Josh Allen this season, just to wrap it up?
Well, I'm kind of closer where Chris is than people might realize. I have Josh Allen at 2. Look, that's a big spike, 15 touchdowns from usually the 7 or 8 range. I mean, that's about double. And the Josh Allen, different coordinators over the last couple of years. I feel like the Buffalo Bills, and I said it last year too. I said, look, this is kind of the end here. If they don't win, the window's going to start to shut real fast. There's some age on the defensive side of the football there. Poyer's already gone. Hyde could be next. Like, there's a situation here where the Buffalo Bills might be a team that's heading in the other direction. I know people don't want to hear that. Josh Allen's still going to get a ton of points with his legs, still going to get rushing touchdowns. He's still an elite fantasy quarterback. I have Mahomes number 1. Why? Because a couple of years ago, he threw for 4,800 yards, and before that, 5,000 yards. And I feel like last year, everybody forgot that. And he might be the safer one because when you're talking about the touchdown regression there, for Josh Allen. And then, Jalen Hurts for a couple years, that brotherly shove, when you take Kelsey out of that, how many rushing touchdowns is he going to get this year? And especially now that you have Saquon Barkley, a guy that you do feel more comfortable using in the goal line scenario. So that might be a different dynamic too. I think they're closer than people realize, but Mahomes is my one. I've got Allen as the 2.
Joe, you're crazy for making Patrick Mahomes your number 1 quarterback. I mean, come on. I mean, no.
Best quarterback on the planet. But it's funny. You look at his passing yard totals out there in the prop market. They're like 4,300. I mean, if you don't want to smash that over, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, 100%. We got some bets later on. Hopefully, we'll be able to get to that I like for this division in particular. But that one and Derrick Henry, just to give you guys a FYI, 999 yards. Yeah, those are the 2 I've hit the most on. Patrick Mahomes over 4,300 and Derrick Henry over 999 rushing yards this season. Just a little FYI there. Let's talk a little Tua Tagovailoa, Chase. You and me here, buddy. So Tua, he did great last year. Was first, I think, 8 weeks of the season. Was a top 5 quarterback. He finished out the year more towards the low end QB1 because as soon as there gets a fall breeze in Miami, apparently, he falls to shame. And that's kind of been the issue here. And that's why for me, I have him at my QB 14. I'm not going to take a guy in the top 12 who I have to worry about second half of the season. And it wasn't just a last year thing. This was the last 3-year issue. Now, some of those years, because he had concussion issues on top of it, I give him props. He was able to get that, corrected this past year. Hopefully that continues. But it's been a process here with the Dolphins offense under Mike McDaniel not performing well when we get to November and December. Why take a quarterback in the top 12 who has that issue with that offense when quarterback class in general, this is where I want to get into this discussion a little bit, is so deep. I can make an argument to not draft the guy until my 15th quarterback off the board right now. That's what they're looking on paper anyway. Chase, do you see it the same way? I know you got him ranked in your top 12 at number 12.
Yeah, I mean, I have him at 12, but like you said, there's a lot of interchangeability right now with the quarterback position. And it is really deep. It's deep in that, yeah, once you get past those first couple of smash guys we actually just talked about with the Josh Allen situation, there's arguments for and against all of them to be top 10, top 12 type guys. So yeah, I'm not strong on Tua Tagovailoa as number 12, and I'm going to argue that he should be a QB1 for everybody right now. But listen, the guy is still throwing to Tyreek Hill. He's still throwing to Jalen Waddle. He still has Devin Achane, and he still has Raheem Mostert. He's surrounded by so many weapons. He still has Mike McDaniel calling plays for him. I mean, everything is there for him to still be a smash hit there at the quarterback position. If you're scared off by the late season tail offs that they seem to have had the last couple of years, if you're scared off by the injury history that thankfully I think we're all happy that we've actually been able to see Tua Tagovailoa get back on a football field and play after some of the hits that we saw him take there a year or two ago. Listen, he still has everything around him to be that star quarterback. If you want to wait on a quarterback, yeah, you can probably get Tua Tagovailoa down there around number 12, and you don't have to reach for him. You still have that smash, especially in something like a best ball format where there's going to be weeks where Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle go off. So I'm not strong on him. I don't have him up at 8 or 7, like I said. Everything is still there. He still has Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Go with that.
Yeah, I got the guys I have in front of him, like in that back end, Jared Goff, I have a spot ahead, Jordan Love at 12, Jaden Daniels is somebody I have in the top 11, Brock Purdy at 10. And I'd rather have all those guys with the upside and the offenses, a combination of both that they're in, than a Tua Tagovailoa, just to kind of put a bow on it. Just so you guys know, this is a career thing here we're talking about. In September and October, he averages 257 yards a game and 1.85 touchdowns per game. When you get into November and December, it's 229 yards a game and 1.4 touchdowns per game. It's a huge gap, and that shows in the fantasy analysis there too.
You could look at his seasons, and you could literally see like the line across the middle of where above it there's 3 touchdown games. There's the 300-yard passing games, and underneath below it's occasionally a 2 touchdown game pops up. You could almost literally see the line if you look back at his yearly stat lines. You're not wrong there.
Also, fantasy championship week, he's at Cleveland, so keep that. in the back of
Yeah,
your mind.
not fun. Not fun at all.
I like
Adam,
that Adam's looking way into the future there. That's really good.
well,
He's
that's kind of
confident.
the baseball episode we just had where we were talking about championship weeks, and that kind of what it plays into it. Adam, let's go with you real quick. Let's talk a little Aaron Rodgers here. Tell me, you're looking way into the future here. Can you give me some clairvoyancy? Is Aaron Rodgers actually going to play a full season? I'm just kidding. There's no way to answer that question, but
yeah, it's hard to say. And I think if I could confidently say yes, or confidently, both tackles are going to be healthy. All of the historically injured guys in this Jets offense are going to be healthy. If I could tell you that, then my 19 suddenly becomes like kind of in that range with Tua, because I do think there's probably a little bit of juice left in that arm. I think he's a smart quarterback. I think this thing can work. I don't really care about this offensive staff, but I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be the offensive staff, so it's a moot point. It just comes down to there's so many ways that this offense can fall apart that don't even necessarily have to be Aaron Rodgers getting hurt. If Garrett Wilson goes down, these weapons suck. If the running back goes down, the running game falls apart.
Mike Williams, sir.
All of these tackles have injury problems, and there's injury problems into the interior as well. Like, there's just so many fail points that this offense could come into that it's more than likely that I think at least one of them falls apart, which is going to cause you some real issues. So I think that's where the gamble is. I think if this whole thing, like this whole ship stays healthy, then you would be in for a really smash hit, at current value for Aaron Rodgers.
Joe, I'll just throw this out there. We don't know if Aaron Rodgers is that great, right? Last time we saw him, he was QB 13 in 2022. It's been a couple of years since that MVP season. So do you think even if he is active and playing, that he's even going to be that effective?
I think there's a lot more downside than upside, and I think that's the most important thing when you're evaluating. Now, this is only a super flex question at the end of the day. You mentioned Mike Williams, bringing him in. Let's bring in the guy who's had more, lower leg injuries than anybody in football the last couple of years and put him on the worst turf in the NFL. That's going to work out fine. I don't see any problems with that. Breece Hall is going to be Breece Hall. Garrett Wilson is an incredible talent. Like, those two guys are still investable, I think, where they're at. But there is downside with the age, the wear and tear on the body of Rodgers, and the decline. Let's be honest. Like, even a couple of years ago, even last year in the Black Book, I kept telling everybody, hey, just because he's gone to the Jets, don't think that all of a sudden this is some kind of different thing. And Nathaniel Hackett is probably the worst offensive coordinator in football. How he is where he is because Aaron Rodgers likes him because he lets Aaron Rodgers do whatever he wants. So let's not pretend like he is special at all. And real quick, just want to throw this out there with the Tua conversation, because this is a more intriguing thing, because Rodgers is further down the trough. But in Superflex leagues, Tua is interesting because he's right in that thing where people might chase that second quarterback. And if you do it and you're passing on some really good wide receiver threes or some RB2s that are out there that can really make a positive impact, I think it's a mistake, because I'd rather pivot to the Lawrences or to even Baker Mayfield as my second quarterback if I have to, and let Tua go. Because I think more than anything, it's not so much where you have Tua ranked, it's who's on the board when you want to take a second quarterback. And I think that is more important than where you're ranking Tua. It's, are you drafting him over XYZ skill position players and what that board looks like? That, to me, is the far more important question.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you, especially when you're going off the ADP. Just to give you guys an idea, the guys who have ranked directly behind Tua, who I'd rather probably draft at their cost: Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, Matthew Stafford, Kirk Cousins, and then I have Justin Herbert all the way down the board, who I'd still probably rather take over Tua.
Aiden Daniels is real interesting too, Dan.
Jaden Daniels I have at 11, so I'm already drafting him before we get to that point.
Look at this guy. I love it. I knew I came here for a reason.
Yeah, a quarterback who runs all the time, and he's a rookie who's going to make one read and run. Yeah, give me that guy for fantasy football all day, every day of the week.
Exactly.
Joe, just to get back to you real quick, because I want to ask you this question, because we've had this debate amongst ourselves, so I already know these people's opinions. I need an opinion I actually respect here. Who's going to start week one, Drake May or Jacoby Brissett?
Being the Pats fan for since 1994, I want to say that's how far back I go for the Patriots. I think it will be Brissett out of the gate. But it won't be long. I think it'll be a month of Jacoby Brissett till May gets his feet under him. Now, that could change depending on what you see in the preseason games in training camp. I'm not saying I'm locked into that, but if I had to be pressed right now, I think Brissett, gets the first September month of the season, maybe 6 weeks into it, depending on how May goes. But look, I like Drake May. He's got the right swagger. He's got the right attitude. He's got the confidence that's been lacking at that position for a while since Tom Brady left. So I think the pick of May was right. I think they did a good job there. I think they've got the quarterback of the future. And now I think you have Jacoby Brissett, who, look, a lot of teams should have been on Jacoby Brissett, in my opinion. Like, that guy can go out there and win you games. If you play defense and give him the right pieces, he can be a very competitive quarterback. So I do think you'll see probably a month of Brissett, maybe more, maybe less. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right. I go back and forth with the Joe on my end, and these guys know this, because on one hand, you look at the Patriots, you're like, look, you're going nowhere. Why bother to waste any time and just plug the guy in? You know he's going to plug in at some point during the season anyway. But then there's a point, and maybe this is the point that you're going to make. You don't want to rush a guy out there and have him fail either. So I guess there is that balance, that dilemma.
Competition level. You're not taking an SEC quarterback and throwing him out there week one. And I think when the speed of the NFL game is different than the college game, but also conference to conference is different too. So I think that, to me, is the thing where you're right. What are you waiting for? Except the one thing you don't want to do is get this guy off on the wrong foot, have a problem with confidence, and then have him struggle mentally. Now, I don't think May's that kind of kid anyway, but you don't want to do it because you're not going anywhere. So why ruin it? Play the slow game a little bit. I think you might be better served in that sense. But I think that is the bigger problem. It's competition level, throwing him out there. Again, that could change. He could go out there and look great. And I was the only guy in the NFL space saying, and I went on NFL Network and said it, that Mac Jones was going to be the week one starter over Cam Newton. Everyone thought I was crazy, and I was right. And that wasn't a hard thing to pick apart. In this sense, I think you learn from some of those lessons. You go, let's step back a little bit. And Mac Jones had played against the SEC. Like, it was a whole different environment where you could have done that, and that was fine. But I do think level of competition is different enough that maybe you slow play it just a little bit, just to give him the best circumstance. I got to look at the schedule too. I'm sure there's a game somewhere in early October that looks like it makes sense.
And I think because you're not going anywhere, I think that's why you want to wait with him, because I think we've seen it be successful other places where they've let a quarterback come in and actually have some time to learn the game before they throw him to the Wolves. I know Alex Van Pelt's coming from the Browns, but why would you want to Cleveland your quarterback like that when you have no team around him? It's not like he's out there throwing to Tua's weapons. It's not like he's out there he's not stepping into the same situation that Caleb Williams is stepping into. And let me tell you, everybody out
of the gate too, you got the Patriots schedule is not great. I mean, you've got the Bengals, the Seahawks game, but then you got the Jets defense, the 49ers defense. You got an in-division game against the Dolphins on October 6th, maybe at home against the Texans on October 13th, or the Jaguars October 20th. I think that's when you start to let that, kind of come into your realm. Because after that, you're going to have the Titans, the Bears, some other matchups, I think a little bit more forgiving potentially for May.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. I was like, it's
daunting. It's a tough start, man.
It's very, very daunting.